During the reality show, the host threw out a trending question. What is your partner's absolute get-out-of-jail-free card? I answered. His get-out-of-jail-free card is that face of his. That night, the topic blew up across the internet. The hashtag trended. Jade is the ultimate face chaser. The whole internet knew I was the official girlfriend of the Whitmore family heir, and that I was madly in love with him. This held true even when he was photographed passionately kissing a popular young actress on the beach and spending the night with her at a hotel. I still let my hopeless romantic side take over, publicly declaring, I won't break up. I'd die if I left him. I had kept this up for 5 years. Brennan was finally moved by my devotion. He chased away all the women buzzing around him, put himself under house arrest in his family estate for 3 days and 3 nights, and threatened to give up his status as heir just to marry me. Just as countless people were marveling at his return to the straight and narrow, something happened. I went to the cemetery to pay my respects to someone who had passed away, and someone secretly filmed me and posted the video online. Engraved on the tombstone in front of me was a small line of text. Eli Whitmore, may he rest in peace. My husband, my forever love. The face on the memorial photo looked almost exactly like Brennan. That night, upon realizing he was nothing more than a stand-in, Brennan nearly jumped off a rooftop. When Brennan and I first met, he had just broken up with his first love. The girl had stuck her neck out and yelled at him. Amber Cole, am the main character of my own life, and I won't rely on you filthy men. After saying that, she left to pursue her own career. Outside the Whitmore Group building, Brennan ran into me. I had the image of a pure, innocent little flower. I looked somewhat similar to Amber when she first debuted. Brennan only asked me 3 questions. What's your name? Are you single? Do you want to be my girlfriend? You can have whatever money and resources you want. In the beginning, Brennan's friends relentlessly mocked me, saying, you only slipped in because Amber isn't around, so don't flatter yourself into thinking Brennan actually likes you. Amber's fans also cursed at me, calling me a pathetic homewrecker and claiming that the moment Amber returned, he would kick me to the curb. That was because Brennan had taken back all the resources he had previously given Amber and handed them over to me. Furious, Amber posted a thinly veiled jab on social media, saying, some people shouldn't get too smug. What doesn't belong to you will eventually have to be returned. Countless netizens were also grabbing their popcorn, commenting that there was no true love among the ultra-rich and predicting that I was just going to grab a massive payout and run. But 5 years passed. I never asked Brennan for a single cent. When he got sick on a business trip, I dropped my work and flew overseas to take care of him around the clock. By the time he recovered, I collapsed from exhaustion. When rumors swirled about him and other actresses, I never asked for an explanation and just immediately cleared the air for him. I believe in Brennan, and I will always stay by his side, I would say. Gradually, things changed. Everyone became convinced that I was deeply in love with Brennan, including Brennan himself. Even his friends changed their tune, starting to call me by my first name with genuine warmth in their voices. Some even advised him, Bren, why don't you just settle down with Jade? If I could find someone to treat me like that, my life would be complete. That night, standing in front of the villa's floor-to-ceiling windows, Brennan hugged me from behind and gently kissed the tip of my ear. Jade, why don't we get married? He didn't finish the second half of his sentence. It was interrupted by the sudden ringing of his phone. Amber's voice came through, thick with tears. Bren, if I regret it now, is it too late? Brennan didn't answer with words. He just dropped me and sprinted out the door, entirely forgetting to even change his shoes. In the middle of the night, Amber posted on Instagram. The caption read, found my way back. The photo showed 2 hands with their fingers tightly intertwined. On Brennan's hand rested the matching couple's ring I had given him. During the years she was away from Brennan, Amber had a hard time. She couldn't land acting roles, lost all her endorsements, and narrowly escaped the industry's casting couch. She realized the cruelty of the outside world and wanted to go back to being a pampered little girl. The moment she reconciled with Brennan, the very first thing she did was swoop in to steal my resources. This infuriated Brooke so much that she cursed all night long. You're Brennan's official girlfriend right now. Technically, she's the other woman inserting herself in. What does she have to be so arrogant about? Brooke fumed. I knew that Brennan didn't love me, but it didn't matter. What I wanted was never his love. Some of the bolder people in the industry, utterly convinced that I was about to be dumped, took advantage of a banquet to relentlessly force drinks on me. Brennan rushed over upon hearing the news. He beat those men so badly they couldn't stand up for quite a while. Looking at him, I spaced out for a moment, and my tears flowed unstoppably. Assuming I was terrified, Brennan quickly pulled me into his arms and coaxed me with a gentle voice. "Don't be afraid, Jade. No matter what happens, I will never abandon you," he promised. I had a rough upbringing. Since I was a child, I had grown up fighting people just to protect myself. A few sleazy men weren't enough to scare me into crying. It was just that the way the man in front of me stood up for me looked exactly like the person in my dreams. Brennan's friends came over to comfort me. "See, Jade, Brennan genuinely cares about you," they said. Amber is nothing more than an unresolved obsession for him. For a fleeting moment, I also thought Brennan had developed real feelings for me. Yet the very next moment, he went on a vacation abroad with Amber, and they were caught on camera. The two of them looked just like a deeply infatuated couple, making out on the beach before walking hand in hand into a hotel, only emerging the next morning. The comment section of my social media accounts was flooded with mockery from Amber's fans. "Don't play dead, Jade. Hurry up and respond. Just thinking about how furiously helpless and jealous of our Amber you must be right now makes me so happy. Things stolen from others will eventually have to be returned. His true love is his true love. Some people could spend their whole lives trying and never catch up." Brennan's secretary contacted me. He ordered me to step in and handle the public relations crisis, just as I had done before. "Okay," I said. "Tell him to enjoy his trip. I'll take care of it." However, the secretly filmed video this time was far too undeniable. Even if I was willing to lie through my teeth, the netizens weren't buying it. "You foolish girl. You're still making excuses for him? Do you really think we're all blind?" "Oh, right, sure, just platonic friends. They have a very mouth-to-mouth friendship." Went into the hotel, got under the covers, and chatted about gossip all night. "Happy now. Jade, if you still don't break up with him, we're going to start cursing you out too." Caught in the crosshairs of public opinion, I had no choice but to make a statement. "I will not break up. I'd die if I left him." Brennan ended his trip early and came back to prepare a birthday party for me. He wrapped his arm around my waist, so immensely pleased with himself that he practically laughed out loud. "Baby, do you really love me that much?" During the reality show earlier that day, the other guests had asked me the exact same question. At the time, I had lost a game, chosen truth, and was asked by the host, "What is your partner's absolute get-out-of-jail-free card?" I was hooked up to a lie detector, so I couldn't lie. With a face full of utter sincerity, I answered, "His get-out-of-jail-free card is that face of his." The host spat a mouthful of water onto the floor and coughed for ages, nearly choking to death. Huh. But the lie detector didn't buzz. It was the truth. The fact that the heir to the Whitmore family was incredibly handsome, having gone viral just for his looks, was common knowledge. Everyone just assumed I was an extreme sucker for a pretty face. The hopelessly incurable kind. The female guest sitting next to me was named Gloria. She was a highly respected industry veteran known for her absolute bluntness. Under the viral post of Brennan and Amber kissing, she had even left a comment saying, "What a perfect match," followed by an image of a vomiting face. Her comment was frantically shared by netizens. Now, looking at me, she practically had the words, "Disappointed in your wasted potential," carved into her forehead. "Jade, do you really love him that much?" she asked. I just smiled. In front of the cameras, the topic ended right there. After filming wrapped, Gloria invited me over to her house for dinner. A long time ago, she and I had played a mother and daughter in a show. After spending just half a month together, Gloria had seen right through my obedient exterior to a heart that wasn't obedient at all. She hadn't scolded me for playing the innocent act. Instead, she praised me. "It's good," she had said. "I like that stubborn streak in you. You're a lot like me when I was young." Gloria's home was right there in Northfield. Hanging on the wall in her living room was a yellowing old photograph. A youthful, green Gloria leaned shyly against the shoulder of a handsome man. I had heard rumors that she had a lover in her youth. Later, the man was killed in a car crash, dying just 3 days before their wedding. I had lived through her exact experience, so I found it incredibly hard to imagine enduring the decades of lonely, struggling days and nights she had faced. Gloria, how on earth did you survive all these years? I asked. Gloria took a sip of her wine. Her eyes rimmed with red. When it was at its most unbearable, I wished for nothing more than to just die and end it all, she said. But I still had my parents and family. I couldn't bear to be that selfish. To force myself to move on quickly, I dated other men and even toyed with the idea of a flash marriage. But none of it worked. She wiped a tear from the corner of her eye, her tone filled with melancholy. The more people I met, the more I realized that he was him, and absolutely no one could ever replace him. I let out a soft sigh, my hands tightly gripping the hem of my shirt. My phone was still pushing notifications about Brennan's latest tabloid scandals. This man, wearing the face I was most intimately familiar with, was doing every sleazy thing imaginable, turning me into a public joke. Brennan was not him, nor could he ever replace him. The thought of leaving surfaced in my mind for the very first time. The day before my birthday, a charity gala was held in Northfield. Amber originally wasn't on the guest list. All it took was her saying, "I want to go," and Brennan pulled strings to get her admitted. Afraid she might feel intimidated, he stayed by her side the entire time. When the spotlight hit the two of them, Brennan bent down to lift the hem of her gown. Their eyes met, exchanging flirtatious glances. Brooke was so furious, she pounded her fist on the table. What the hell is this? I've never seen anyone so brazen about acting like that. Aren't they afraid of karma? I swallowed the bitterness in my throat and let out a low laugh. Karma won't touch them. For a powerful and wealthy man like Brennan, the worst that happened was a few gossipy remarks about his womanizing. Chances were, countless men were secretly envying his ability to juggle two women at once. As for Amber, with Brennan backing her, no amount of public backlash could impact her career. The roles and endorsements she landed were only getting better and better. That was just how unfair this world was. My seat was assigned right next to Brennan's, but by the time I entered the hall, Amber had already taken it. I pointed toward the distance and told her, "Your seat is in the back." Amber rolled her eyes at me and pretended not to hear. For the first time, I dug my heels in. Refusing to back down, I simply stood right in front of her, staring her down. "Don't play deaf. Get up," I demanded. Seeing the tension escalating, Brennan tugged at my clothing. "Jade, be good. Just let her have it. And what if I absolutely won't?" I shot back. Brennan furrowed his brows and lowered his voice. "Don't be unreasonable. If you have a temper, save it for when we get home." I didn't even understand myself. For the past 5 years, I had tolerated absolutely everything. Yet today, I felt genuinely wronged over such a trivial matter. Fighting back the urge to choke up, I said, "Brennan, this is the very last time." Then, I shook off his hand, turned around, and walked toward the back rows. Throughout the several-hour event, Brennan must have turned around to look at me countless times. The media barely managed to get a single shot of his face. Almost all their photos were just the back of his head. This displeased Amber greatly. The moment the event ended, she started whining about stomach pains, forcing Brennan to stay with her at the hospital all night. The following morning, Brennan's friends started calling me, "Jade, you have no idea how much effort Brennan poured into your birthday party. He even hired dozens of French artisans to rush make your dress by hand. Just forgive him for last night. He says he knows he messed up, and he's totally going to make it up to you today." Brennan had always been like this. Knowing he was in the wrong but too proud to apologize directly, he always sent others to smooth things over. I accepted the invitation and rushed over to the banquet venue, only to find that everyone present looked rather grim. "What's going on?" I asked. Following the crowd's gaze, I looked up toward the second-floor balcony. That unimaginably luxurious, custom-made dress was currently being worn by Amber. Brennan walked toward me. Rubbing his chin and looking a bit guilty, he said, "Amber really liked that dress, so just let her have it. I'll get you a much better one later." "Brennan." I stared at him coldly. "Is this what you meant by making it up to me? That belongs to me. Why on earth should I let her have it? I absolutely will not." Trying to juggle two women at once, Aren't you disgusted with yourself? No. Actually, the two of you deserve each other. You're both equally disgusting. For 5 years, I had unfailingly played the role of the gentle, compliant girlfriend. Brennan had never seen me speak so fiercely, let alone hurl insults right at him. He choked on his words, his pride clearly wounded. Come on, it's just one dress. Do you really need to make such a scene? His friends immediately crowded around to play peacemaker. It's your birthday. You should be happy. Don't be mad, Jade. Bren, you too. Hurry up and apologize to Jade. I stood my ground, not saying a single word. After a long moment, staring at Brennan's face, I gave a hollow little laugh. There's no need to apologize, I said. Brennan, let's break up. Just those few words left everyone in the room entirely stunned. It took Brennan a long moment just to register what I'd said. Break up? You're saying you want to break up? Jade, I dare you to say that one more time. Amber, having heard the shouting, hurried over. Keeping her eyes lowered, she apologized to me. Jade, I'm so sorry. I grew up in a regular family and was never truly pampered. This is the first time I've ever seen such a gorgeous dress, and I just wanted to try it on. Please don't be mad. I'll take it off and give it back to you right now. There's no need to take it off, I told her. I pulled a pair of scissors out of my bag, grabbed hold of Amber, and slashed the dress she was wearing to absolute ribbons. Any piece of clothing you've worn belongs straight in the trash, I yelled. Brennan's pupils shrank in terror, and he shoved me away violently. Jade, have you completely lost your mind? Amber slumped into his arms, clutching her chest and weeping with pathetic vulnerability. A sudden, sharp pain lanced through the palm of my hand. Clenching my fist to hide the cut, I turned around and headed for the door. Jade, please don't. Someone started. His friends were still trying to smooth things over, but Brennan exploded in fury. Let her go, he roared. Whoever dares to stop her today is making an enemy out of me. Time passed. I returned to the villa to grab a few essential items. Then, I bought a bus ticket back to Hartwell for that very day. The scenery blurred past the window. Listening to the howling wind, I felt that for many years, I had been nothing but a piece of duckweed drifting aimlessly through this world. I was forever caught in a cycle of finding brief, fleeting happiness, only to be violently knocked back to my original, desolate state by fate. By the time I arrived in Hartwell, the sky was pitch black. It was impossible to hail a cab in the small town. Dragging my luggage, I walked in the pouring rain from the station to the cemetery for over 2 hours. I just missed him so terribly. I couldn't wait a single second longer to see him. The old groundskeeper at the cemetery gates tried to talk me into turning back. Miss, do you know what time it is? The cemetery has been closed for hours. Are you trying to scare me to death? All the emotions I had bottled up the entire journey suddenly broke through the dam. Covering my face, I broke down and wailed. I wish to God that ghosts were real in this world. I cried. If it meant I could see Eli just one more time, I would gladly pay any price imaginable. Jade was genuinely gone. A girl who usually had such an impeccable temper, who smiled at everyone and was obedient to the point of seeming unreal. Today, she had exploded in such a massive fit of rage over a simple dress. It was as if she had swallowed gunpowder. One of Brennan's friends finally couldn't hold his tongue. Bren, you really took it too far. You can't just bully someone like that simply because you know they care about you. Stop acting tough, and hurry up and go coax her back. Coax her. Brennan scoffed. Are you kidding me? She's the one who can't live without me, not the other way around. Didn't you see her today? Acting like a complete lunatic. I'm the one who spoiled her into acting this way. Right in front of everyone. Brennan held up his phone and blocked Jade's number. And all of you, listen up. Nobody is allowed to contact her for at least a month, he ordered. If I don't give her the cold shoulder for a while, she'll start thinking she runs the place. The birthday banquet went on without its leading lady. The entire meal was eaten under a suffocatingly heavy atmosphere. The secretary hesitated for a long time before stepping forward, speaking with extreme caution. Mr. Whitmore, I believe there was blood on those scissors. Brennan froze. He sprinted up to the second floor and picked up the scissors. Sure enough, there were smears of fresh blood on the blades. His stubborn pride didn't even last 3 seconds. First, Brennan started calling her like a madman. When the calls wouldn't go through, he frantically removed her from his block list. Sprinting out the door, he bombarded her with voice messages. Baby, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Where did you get hurt? Why didn't you tell me? Please just answer my messages. I'm begging you. Don't scare me like this. Watching him, his friends rolled their eyes so hard they practically saw the backs of their own skulls. Nobody is allowed to contact her for at least a month. One mocked in a drawn-out voice. Huh. Men. Brennan finally realized that he understood absolutely nothing about Jade. He didn't know where her hometown was, who her friends or family were, or where she would even go after leaving Northfield. His subordinates were pouring all their efforts into investigating Jade's whereabouts. For days, Brennan couldn't eat or sleep. After she left, the massive villa felt as freezing as an ice cellar, utterly devoid of any human warmth. Amber came to the house looking for Brennan. The moment she stepped inside, she wrapped her arms around him. Bren, the nuisance is gone. Now we can finally start over properly. But Brennan, driven by some inexplicable impulse, pushed the woman in front of him away. Amber stared in shock. What is that supposed to mean? Brennan couldn't make sense of it himself. He didn't know when it happened, but in his heart, Jade had long ceased to be just a stand-in. He loved her fragrant, long hair. He loved how her eyes curved into little crescents when she smiled. He loved the utterly captivated, hopelessly infatuated expression she wore whenever she stared at his face, her features brimming with an irrepressible love. Ever since he was 5 years old, Brennan had been the only child in his family. He was showered with endless adoration, treated like absolute royalty. He was never starved for love. Yet he had still been softened and profoundly moved by Jade's overwhelmingly fierce affection. If he had to choose between Amber and Jade, Brennan knew deep down that his heart had unknowingly, but decisively, shifted toward the latter. His men finally tracked down Jade's location. Halfway through a meeting, Brennan abandoned everything, bolted out of his chair, and raced straight to the airport. It had only been 5 days, but missing her was tearing him apart from the inside out. Love truly was a terrifying thing. It was capable of shattering his arrogant pride inch by inch, turning him into the utterly pathetic mess he was today. Being without Jade felt like being cut off from oxygen. He simply couldn't breathe. I wasn't surprised in the slightest the moment I saw Brennan. With the Whitmore family's power, tracking down my whereabouts was a trivial matter. Brennan grabbed my hand and inspected it over and over. Seeing that the cut had already scabbed over, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. He spewed endless apologies and stubbornly insisted on wiring $5 million to my account as compensation. There's no need for that, I told him. I pulled my hand from his grip, my tone completely serene. We've already broken up. Let's part on good terms, and we can still be friends. Brennan stared at me for a long moment. Then, suddenly, he laughed. All right, baby, let's stop saying things in anger. 1,000 wrongs, 10,000 wrongs, it's all my fault. I promise you, Amber or whoever else, they'll never appear in front of you again. I only want you. Come back to Northfield with me, and the second we get back, we're getting married. I sighed in sheer helplessness. Stop messing around. I am not going to marry you. Why not? Because I don't love you. The laughter in Brennan's eyes only deepened. He wrapped his arms around my waist like a total rogue, so tight I couldn't push him away. Don't you blush telling lies like that? He teased. I know what it is. You're afraid you won't pass my family's vetting. Don't worry. I will handle absolutely everything. All you have to do is get ready to be my wife. It was only through the entertainment news that I eventually found out exactly how Brennan intended to handle it. The moment he returned home and brought up marriage, his father dragged him straight into the study for negotiations, after which he was placed under house arrest within the family estate. For 3 days and nights, he refused to eat, refused to attend any family meetings, and refused to sign a single document. The family's advisors took turns trying to persuade him, completely in vain, and he eventually fell seriously ill. Even when he woke up, he refused food and medicine, throwing the entire estate into total chaos. He kept repeating the exact same few sentences over and over. Even if I have to give up my title as heir and get thrown out of this house, I am marrying Jade. And another thing, don't even think about making trouble for her. If anything happens to her, I'll end my own life. In this generation of the Whitmore family, Brennan was the sole remaining bloodline. In the end, their hearts ached for him, and they caved. The moment the news broke, the tide of public opinion online shifted. Many of the people who had previously cursed Brennan for being a scumbag started marveling at his return to the straight and narrow, praising his profound devotion. Jade has waited so bitterly for all these years. Even the coldest of hearts would have been melted by now, they said. She waited so many years, but for an outcome like this, it was totally worth it. This world seemed to be exceptionally forgiving toward wealthy and powerful men. Amidst countless acts of manipulation and exploitation, the mere inclusion of a single trace of genuine sincerity was enough to earn them endless praise. For those next few days, enthusiastic locals were bumping into Brennan all over Northfield on a daily basis. He was either at a jewelry store looking at wedding rings, or at a bridal boutique picking out a wedding dress. Perhaps he was just in far too good of a mood. He didn't turn down a single person who came up to ask for a photo with him. But Brennan's good mood did not last very long. That was because a video of me absolutely blew up the trending charts. In the video, I was kneeling in front of a grave, sobbing so hard I couldn't catch my breath. I looked as though I had suffered the greatest injustice in the world, pouring out my grievances to someone. Engraved on the tombstone in front of me was a line of text. Eli Whitmore, may he rest in peace. My husband, my forever love. The face on that memorial photo looked almost exactly like Brennan. That night, Brennan blew up my phone with calls. I was so annoyed I couldn't sleep, so I ran up to the rooftop to catch some fresh air. When I turned around, I saw a person standing in the distance. Ever since I had known Brennan, he had always maintained an aloof, effortlessly in control posture. I had never seen him look so utterly wretched. He had rushed to Hartwell in the dead of night, looking exhausted from the journey and utterly defeated, his eyes so bloodshot they looked ready to drip blood. He was already teetering right on the edge of a total breakdown. Jade, you have to answer the questions I'm about to ask you truthfully. You are not allowed to lie to me anymore, he demanded. I nodded. Okay. You've been married? No. Then what do those words on that tombstone mean? He passed away before we could make it to the altar. I wanted to give him the official title he deserved. Last question. Brennan gritted his teeth, fighting back tears so hard that the veins on his forehead bulged. Have you always just treated me as a stand-in? I fell silent for a moment. Yes. The moment I spoke the truth, I also felt an immense sense of relief. Jade. You are so fucking ruthless. Brennan turned his back to me. His tall, broad back instantly caved in, shuddering violently again and again amidst his muffled sobs. I didn't understand what he was so heartbroken about. Brennan, I was just Amber's stand-in in your heart anyway, so we're effectively even, I pointed out. From now on, just live a good life with her. I won't ever show up again. No. Brennan abruptly stood up, locked me in his arms, and kissed me fiercely. I bit him as hard as I could, until the taste of blood filled both our mouths. But he still refused to let go. I don't want her, I only want you, he shouted. Jade, baby, come back with me. We'll get married. I have everything set up. I just felt an exhausting weariness in my heart. If I had known getting away from him would be this troublesome, I never would have gotten involved with him in the first place. Brennan, do you not understand plain English? I am never going to marry you, I said. I have a lover, and it isn't you. Brennan's towering figure looked as though it were about to collapse. Is it true that the living can never compete with the dead? The very next second, he stepped over the rooftop railing, half his body dangling over the edge, just a single step away from plummeting down. 29 stories up. A fall from here would absolutely crush his body to pieces. If I died too, would you love me the way you love him? He asked. I violently flinched, my pupils shrinking to pinpricks. He was completely out of his mind. The freezing wind howled across the rooftop. I turned and strode away, without even looking back once. Brennan wasn't actually going to kill himself. He couldn't bear to part with his own life. His life was brilliant and rich, and love was only a tiny, insignificant fraction of it. Unlike me, whose heart was so small that it could only hold a single person. The day Eli left, the only thing of me remaining in this world was a hollow shell. barely clinging to life. A long time passed. From the rooftop came the man's vicious, teeth-gritting words. "Jade, I hate you. I am going to get back at you. Just you wait." Brennan had it all wrong. It wasn't that the living couldn't compete with the dead. It was that the moment Eli appeared, absolutely no other option could ever catch my eye again. Following the video's explosive virality, a secret of a wealthy dynasty was also laid bare before the public. Eli was Brennan's older twin brother. He had gone missing when he was very little, and rumor had it that he had never been found. Public opinion was absolutely boiling over. Yet, right at the peak of the hype, I was preparing to announce my retirement from the entertainment industry. Brooke couldn't bear to see me go and spent ages trying to talk me out of it. "Jade, we have all the heat right now. Let's take advantage of it and book a few more roles. We might just break into the A-list next year." With a deathly pale face, I forced a smile for her. Then, I pulled off my wig, revealing hair as messy and chaotic as wild weeds. In several spots, it could no longer cover my scalp, exposing scattered scars and red, bloody scratches that were rather startling to look at. "Look, Brooke," I said, "I can't act anymore. My illness had relapsed. Just like 5 years ago, whenever I suffered an emotional breakdown, I couldn't stop myself from tearing out my own hair. I was suffering from insomnia night after sleepless night, and beneath thick layers of foundation were dark circles that were becoming impossible to conceal. After that trending topic broke, Gloria kept asking to meet up with me. I couldn't say no forever, so I eventually got on a video call with her. I intentionally put on very heavy makeup, hoping to cover up my haggard appearance, but Gloria saw right through it in a single glance. "Jade, the look in your eyes isn't right at all. Don't stay by yourself during this time. Give me your address, and I'll come stay with you for a few days." I lowered my head. I was somewhat at a loss as to how to deal with another person's kindness. "Thank you, Gloria, but I'm doing fine. I'm retiring from the industry simply because I'm exhausted and just want to rest," I told her. "You little liar." Her tone became noticeably more anxious. "I've been exactly where you are. Do you really think you can hide this from me? Fine, if you don't want me to keep you company, then I'm going to set you up with a therapist, and you absolutely have to go. You are so young, and you have so much life ahead of you. If his spirit is watching over you, he wouldn't want to see you suffering this badly because of him." I did listen to her. I saw the doctor, and I took the medication. But aside from making me drowsy and physically exhausted every day, it was completely useless. The reason Gloria had managed to survive it was because she still had parents and family who loved her. To live in this world, a person must have an anchor connecting them to it. Only then can they find a reason to keep going amidst overwhelming adversity. It was ridiculously ironic. After leaving Brennan, I shockingly couldn't find a single reason to stay alive. Brennan's acts of revenge started arriving one after another. First, he froze the credit cards he had given me and changed the security code on the front gate of the Northfield villa. When he saw that had no effect, he intercepted all my work resources and distributed them to the new artists signed to his company. A few days passed. What he got in return wasn't my begging for mercy. It was my public statement announcing my retirement from the industry. Brennan threw a massive fit of rage. Unable to reach me, he went directly to Brooke. "What the hell is going on? The penalty for breaching her contract is astronomical. How on earth could she afford to pay it?" he demanded. I had been under Brooke's management ever since my debut. Later, she followed me when I jumped ship to the entertainment agency under the Whitmore Group's umbrella. Facing off against the big boss, Brooke, whose heart ached for me, actually dared to openly talk back to him right in front of other colleagues. "That's hilarious. So you actually do know she can't afford to pay it," she snapped. "When you set that astronomical penalty fee back then, wasn't it precisely so you could chain her to your side like a toy, ensuring that no matter how much you screwed around outside, she would never be able to leave you easily? Take a look at this." Brooke slammed a stack of documents onto the table in front of him, giving a cold scoff. "Mr. Whitmore, are you satisfied now?" Brennan suddenly felt as though it was difficult to breathe. In order to buy back her freedom, Jade had shockingly emptied her entire life savings, sold off every piece of jewelry and designer bag he had ever given her, and had even mortgaged her house and car. For the sake of that other man, she was willing to sacrifice absolutely everything just to break free from him. It suddenly dawned on Brennan that he no longer possessed a single thing he could use to threaten Jade. She didn't want anything anymore. Fame, money, her career. Along with him, Brennan, as a person. They were all treated like pure garbage, tossed aside in Northfield all at once. In his moment of deepest despair, Amber came looking for him on her own initiative. She brought with her a stack of paper, slightly yellowed with curled edges. Bren, one time when I came over to your house, I saw a folder and thought it was filled with love letters you had written to Jade. I got jealous in the heat of the moment, so I secretly took some of them, she said. Thinking back on it now, they probably weren't written by you. Brennan flipped through them, page by page. Reading the deeply affectionate words that older brother had written to Jade made him so agonizingly jealous his teeth ached. Bren, I'm showing you this just to shake you awake, Amber continued. Jade's entire past belongs to another man. But I'm different. I only have you. The two of us are the perfect match. Brennan didn't hear a single word of it. Excitement had completely overwhelmed his mind. He had finally found a way to make Jade willingly come to see him. He borrowed Amber's phone. When he dialed the number, the woman's voice on the other end sounded exceptionally weak and powerless. Who is this? Do you still want the letters Eli wrote to you? If not, I'm burning them, he replied. The voice on the other end pitched up several degrees. What letters? How do you know about that? Brennan let out a sigh of relief. If you want them, come see me, he said. I'm only giving you 2 hours. I was lying completely still in the bathtub. The fresh blood spilling from my wrist had dyed the entire tub of water a pale pink. In just a few more minutes, I would finally be free from it all. Yet my phone rang at the absolute worst possible moment. I fought through the dizziness as hard as I could, flipped open that folder, and realized that, sure enough, many of the letters were missing. Eli hadn't left many things behind for me. According to my plan, these letters were supposed to be buried in the ground right alongside me. There was no time to go to the hospital to get bandaged up. I wrapped gauze tightly around my wrist, used lipstick to cover up the deathly pallor of my lips, and took a cab straight to the designated meeting spot. Inside the private hotel room, Brennan had been waiting for a long time. I tried to grab my things back, but lunged at thin air. Brennan, you promised to give them back to me. If I hadn't said that, would you have even come to see me? Having lost too much blood, my vision kept blacking out, and I didn't have the strength to fight with him. My voice softened, sounding incredibly distressed. Please, I'm begging you. Give them back to me. Fine. Brennan stepped forward and grabbed my hand. As long as you come back to Northfield with me and marry me, I'll do whatever you want. He was immune to both threats and pleas. He was dead set on dragging me back to marry him. My patience completely ran out, and I lunged at him to forcibly rip them away. When I couldn't outmuscle him, I bit him viciously. Brennan cried out in pain, but couldn't bring himself to push me away, and his temper flared in an instant. Jade, look at yourself. Look at what you've become over a dead man. Since it's come to this, I'll sever this obsession for you right now. By the time my vision cleared again, scraps of paper were drifting down from the air like snow. Every single letter Eli had written to me while struggling on his deathbed, including his final suicide note, had been ripped to shreds by Brennan. I froze, my mind going completely blank. My body collapsed straight down. Like a dead, weightless leaf, I fell right into Brennan's arms. It all happened so fast that Brennan was in a complete daze. He could only remember the frantic, panicked image of himself scooping Jade up and sprinting toward the hospital. The girl in his arms was cold and limp, like a pool of freezing water, freezing his very organs along with her. He tried to rub warmth back into her hands. Only when he pushed back her loose cuff did he realize that her wrist was wrapped in thick layers of gauze, which were now completely soaked through with blood. That deep, piercing red practically burned Brennan's retinas. An instant, shattering breakdown left his tears falling like rain. The light outside the emergency room stayed on. Brennan sat out in the hall, his eyes completely hollow. The only thing echoing in his head was what the doctor had just told him. Mr. Whitmore, we are going to do everything we can to save her. But with this volume of blood loss, the doctor paused, struggling to voice the words. She truly does not want to live anymore. Brennan finally accepted the reality of his utter and complete defeat. Jade's heart only had room for Eli. There was no space for him. And there never would be. The emergency surgery lasted a full day and night. Brennan didn't close his eyes once, to the point that a few gray hairs even sprouted at his temples. He had never believed in gods or Buddhas. And he certainly never imagined a day would come where he would act like a helpless lunatic, praying to every deity he could think of. He had finally figured it out. So what if he was just a stand-in? As long as Jade could stay alive, as long as he could see her eyes curving into crescents when she smiled just one more time, he would do absolutely anything. I didn't know if it was a dream or the life flashing before my eyes moments prior to death. I remembered things from a very, very long time ago. Not long after I was born, my mother took me with her and remarried my stepfather. When I was 4, my mother died in an accident, and from then on, I lived with my stepfather. He was an English teacher at the elementary school in the town of Hartwell. He had a respectable appearance, a decent job, and a deep devotion to his late wife, even treating the child she brought with her as if she were his own flesh and blood. Everyone said that my mother and I must have accumulated immense good karma in our past lives to have met a good man like Dennis. But who could have known that beneath his gentle, refined exterior, he was actually a complete monster? At first, Dennis claimed he was afraid I'd kick off the blankets at night, so he needed to sleep beside me, but I kept waking up in the middle of the night to him touching me. I was too young back then and didn't understand what it meant. It was only when I got a little older and understood what he was doing that I finally began to fight back. But how could I possibly overpower a fully grown man? Dennis grabbed me by the throat and ruthlessly slapped me across the face several times. You eat my food and drink my water, and you dare try to fight back against me? Go on and tell someone if you've got the guts, and let's see if anyone actually believes you. I didn't have any proof. After thinking it over relentlessly, the only option I had left was to run. Taking advantage of Dennis being out, I grabbed the few dollars I had saved up from collecting empty bottles and hopped on the very first bus out of town. I was 11 years old that year. It was my first time in Hartwell. I had spent all the money on me and was starving. I saw a small roadside diner where a table still had leftover food left behind by customers. Feeling like a thief, I sneaked inside. Right after I finished eating, the person who had actually ordered the food came back from the restroom. Did I say I was done with that? I whipped my head around. My gaze crashed right into the mocking eyes of a teenage boy. Whose kid are you? Hurry up and call your parents over to pay me back, he demanded. I lowered my head and stayed dead silent. What's with playing deaf? I'm not. I was terrified. Mainly, I was afraid that he would send me back to that hellhole just to get his money back. In a state of sheer panic, I fell straight to my knees with a thud. It startled the boy so badly, he jumped right out of his seat. Holy crap. What are you doing? If you can't pay, you can't pay, but don't curse my lifespan by kneeling to me. I bawled at the top of my lungs. I'm sorry, mister. I was just too hungry. I didn't mean to, boo-hoo. In the end, he took a massive loss. Not only did he fail to get his money back, but he even paid out of his own pocket to order me an extra burger, fries, and a milkshake. That was the most delicious meal I had ever eaten. Once I had eaten my fill, the boy wanted to take me home. I completely panicked and wrapped my arms around his leg, refusing to let go. Can you take me in? I begged. I know how to do all the chores, and I don't eat much at all. Keeping me around is a really good deal. I wasn't sure if he was a good person, but I had fought so hard to escape. I would rather die out on the streets than ever go back. He looked utterly exasperated. Me? Do I look like someone who can raise a kid? I was too terrified of being sent back. So I threw a massive tantrum, rolling on the ground and acting completely unreasonable, wailing at the top of my lungs while clinging to his leg as passers-by stopped to watch the spectacle. The boy's face flushed bright red from embarrassment, and he quickly clamped a hand over my mouth. All right, you little tyrant. You win. But let's get one thing straight. It's only for one night. Come daybreak, you have to leave. The boy's rented apartment wasn't big, but it was kept incredibly neat and tidy. You take my bed. I'll sleep on the couch, he said. I sneakily glanced around the room. Do you live all by yourself? I asked. Yeah. He told me his name was Eli, that he was an orphan, and that he had grown up in the foster care system. He had made a bit of money over the last couple of years by watching over an underground arcade, which finally allowed him to move out on his own. Even though he looked tall, he was actually only 15 years old that year. After breakfast the next morning, Eli issued the eviction notice once again. "You saw it yourself. I barely have enough to feed myself. I really can't take care of you. Go home, kid. Just go home." I rolled up my sleeves, revealing horrific bruises. There was barely a single patch of uninjured skin left on my tiny arms. My mouth turned down, and huge tears began rolling down my face. I took the already tragic story of my upbringing and exaggerated it with even more embellished details as I told it to him. The story hit Eli so hard it rendered him completely speechless. After a moment of silence, he wiped the corner of his eye, dug out a bottle of ointment from a cabinet, and squatted down on the floor to apply it to my wounds. "Forget it. You can stay," he finally said. "From now on, you're my little sister. As long as I have a bowl of rice to eat, I won't let you starve." In reality, Dennis hadn't hit me in quite a while. I had actually pinched those terrifying bruises onto my own skin the previous night just to play on Eli's sympathy. Many years later, when we brought this incident up again in conversation, Eli told me he had known all along that I was lying to him. "Then do you regret taking me in like that?" I asked. "I do," he replied. He reached out, grabbed my hand, and held it tightly. I was too young back then, unable to shoulder that kind of responsibility. If it were the me of today, I would have immediately marched right up to his door with you to get justice. Maybe then, you wouldn't have had to struggle in that shadow for so long. "Jade, it's my fault for not being good enough," he said. Love meant always feeling like you owed the other person more. Little did he know, if it hadn't been for him, I probably would have died completely unnoticed on some freezing winter night in Hartwell. Eli wanted me to go to school in Hartwell, but my residency papers and identification documents were all in Dennis's hands. My parents hadn't designated a legal guardian before they died, and Dennis had seized on this loophole, planning to petition the court to officially become my legal guardian. Eli went to negotiate with him. $100,000 to completely buy out your rights to this little girl. "Do you accept or not?" he asked. That very night, I packed my things, fully preparing to be kicked out. But Eli grabbed hold of me. "Just stay here and rest easy. I'll figure something out," he promised. I thought he was just joking around. Yet half a month later, Dennis actually agreed to let me go. "Did you seriously give him $100,000? I asked. "Did you go rob a bank?" "Don't ask," he said. Eli refused to answer. The day Dennis was preparing to leave, Eli brought me along to wait for him in a narrow alleyway. The moment Dennis showed his face, Eli threw a bag over his head and gave him a brutal beating. Dennis thrashed and writhed inside the bag, begging for mercy and agony, looking exactly like a maggot wriggling in a gutter. We took off running the moment the beating was done. There were no security cameras there, so Dennis could only swallow the loss. A massive snowstorm hit that night. I had twisted my ankle while running away, so Eli carried me home on his back. His back was lean yet broad. Pressing my face against it and listening to his strong heartbeat, I learned what it felt like to be truly safe for the very first time. "It just feels so unfair," I told him. "A guy like him commits all kinds of evil, and all he gets is a beating, plus he walks away with so much money for nothing." Eli laughed, adjusting his grip to hike me higher up his back. "Money is just a worldly possession. Trading it for your freedom is a fantastic deal. Trust me, he'll pay the price sooner or later." In order to support me, Eli spent absolutely all of his free time taking on video game boosting gigs. Back then, a single gig only paid $1 or $2. He was constantly busy late into the night, often falling asleep sprawled over his desk. One time, he passed out during class. The doctor said he was severely overworked and suffering from long-term malnutrition. Every month, after deducting his school tuition from his earnings, he transferred the vast majority of the rest to me for living expenses, only ever bearing to grab the cheapest things at the cafeteria to fill his own stomach. My heart ached terribly for him, so I packed my things and prepared to leave again. At the Hartwell station, Eli grabbed me by the ear and viciously scolded me. "Where the hell do you think you're running off to?" he yelled. "You won't stop until you give me a literal heart attack from worrying, will you?" I dropped my head in deep dejection. "I just don't want to drag you down anymore. If you didn't have me around, your life would be so much easier. He raised his hand, pretending he was going to smack me. Terrified, I squeezed my eyes shut. But what came instead was a gentle pat on the head. Don't talk nonsense. You aren't a burden at all, he said. You are incredibly important to me. Way more important than you could ever imagine. It was a long time later before I fully understood what Eli meant by that. Both of us were pathetic, isolated souls with absolutely no one to rely on. We were each other's sole anchor, the only thing tethering the other to this world. Neither of us could survive without the other. A year later, Dennis was thrown behind bars. Someone had reported him for secretly abusing numerous young girls in his classes over the years. The whistleblower seemed entirely prepared. They provided such overwhelmingly solid evidence that the guilty verdict was handed down very quickly. The scandal caused an absolute uproar in the small town. A furious mob of parents stormed the courthouse and brutally broke both of Dennis's legs and smashed all his teeth out. If the police hadn't arrived in time, they probably would have killed him. A shooting star flashed across the sky that night. Eli and I climbed up to the rooftop. He sat beside me, and I leaned my head on his shoulder. When I was little, my mom told me that shooting stars represent good luck, and that if you make a wish on one, it will come true, I said. With tears in my eyes, I turned my head to look at him. God must have taken pity on me to send a shooting star to bring you into my life. Eli said nothing. He just silently stayed by my side the entire night. In the early hours of the morning, while half asleep, I heard him making a wish to the starry sky. Please let Jade live a lifetime of peace and happiness. She's suffered enough. She can't bear any more pain. If there must be any more suffering, just give it all to me. For many years after that, I hated myself for not clamping my hand over his mouth right then and there, allowing his words to tragically curse his own fate. I was short and skinny, and I was a widely known orphan. Because of this, I was constantly bullied at school. Not wanting to cause trouble, I endured it silently for a whole semester. It only emboldened them to escalate their cruelty. What are you glaring at? Do you really think you can fight us? They taunted. I nodded. You guessed right. The very next second, I charged at them, taking on the whole group single-handedly. They fought with mere arrogance, but I fought like I had absolutely nothing to lose. Combined with the foundation I had built up from fighting back against Dennis since I was a child, an entire group of them was still no match for me. Getting into a brawl naturally resulted in parents being called to the school. The girl who had bullied me the most came from an exceptionally wealthy family, and her parents were incredibly aggressive, loudly threatening to have me locked up in juvenile detention. Eli skipped his own classes and rushed over. He yanked me behind him in one swift motion. If you have something to say it to me. Don't intimidate my little sister, he warned. The parent was just about to start screaming curses at him. But the split second they saw Eli's face, their expression morphed into one of utter shock, as if they had just seen a ghost. Oh my God. Aren't you that? I tugged at Eli's sleeve. Do you guys know each other? No, I don't know them, he replied. Eli told me to step outside first. I have no idea what methods he used, but that parent ended up not only making their kid apologize to me, but also eagerly volunteering to cover all my medical bills, acting extremely subservient. The moment we got home, I apologized to Eli. I'm sorry. I caused trouble for you again. He frowned. Let me ask you, did you do anything wrong? I nodded. People were bullying you, and you merely fought back. Does that count as doing something wrong? He pressed. I glanced up to gauge his expression. Then I shook my head. Remember this. You were not in the wrong, he stated firmly. If anything like this ever happens again, you absolutely must tell me. As long as I'm here, I won't let anyone push you around. Life started getting a little easier by the time I entered high school. Eli was extremely handsome, had a pleasant voice, and was highly skilled at video games, so gradually, he started getting more and more boosting gigs. Many esports arenas hosted tournaments with sizable prize pools. He entered every single time, and placed every single time. Flocks of girls came specifically to watch him play in person. Oh my God, look at that face. He looks like he walked straight out of a fairy tale. I have to get his number once the match is over. Let's go together. I stood on the sidelines, watching, and a sudden, inexplicable wave of anger surged in my chest. I left the venue early, headed straight to a nearby cosmetic store, and had them do my makeup heavily, making me look far more mature than my actual age. Once the tournament finished, I immediately rushed up, hooked my arm tightly through Eli's, and feigned extreme intimacy. "You worked so hard. I'm here to take you home," I cooed. The girls who had been just about to approach and hit on him all left in bitter disappointment. Eli stared at my face, his expression blank with shock for quite some time. As soon as we got home, he grabbed a hot towel and scrubbed my face as forcefully as if he were wiping down a table. "With makeup like this, if I ran into you out on the street in the dead of night, I'd call the cops," he muttered. "My little tyrant, what kind of stunt are you trying to pull this time?" Once I actually calmed down, the utter embarrassment of what I'd done belatedly washed over me. Eli was already 20. It was perfectly normal for him to date. I was severely overstepping my boundaries by trying to control him. Nothing really. I just wanted to pick you up and go home," I mumbled. I played dumb, and he didn't call me out on it. Oh, all right then. I was 17 that year. I convinced myself that my feelings for Eli were nothing more than a family member's possessiveness. Theoretically speaking, I was just a little burden that Eli had dragged along with him. I was just terrified that once he got a girlfriend, there wouldn't be any room left in the house for me as his little sister. The year I graduated high school, I celebrated my 18th birthday. I didn't invite any classmates or friends. I spent it exclusively with Eli. The candles on the cake flickered brightly. I pretended to make a wish, but through the glow of the flames, I squinted and stole glances at him, only to discover that he was smiling back at me. The exact moment our eyes met, my heart felt like it completely skipped a beat. Eli smeared a dab of frosting onto the tip of my nose. Refusing to back down, I fought to smear it all over his face. Amidst the playful wrestling and pulling, our hands unconsciously intertwined. Both of us yanked our hands back as though we had just been electrocuted. The tips of my ears burned blazing red. It was only then that I belatedly realized my feelings for him had long since transcended the boundaries of a sibling relationship. Love was born from the countless days and nights we had spent together. It had quietly hatched, bred, spread, and grown deep roots and lush branches in the silence, until it was entirely out of control, until it was completely impossible to avoid any longer. I was the one who confessed first. But Eli's expression turned quite grim. "Jade, I'm your brother." "You don't have to be," I said through gritted teeth. "We aren't blood-related anyway. But I raised you. You might just be confusing dependency with romantic love, and I cannot take advantage of you like that." "I'm not," I fired back. "I know exactly what love is." Eli let out a heavy sigh. "You're young. You haven't interacted with enough guys, so you just naturally assume I'm great. You need to step out into the world, see more of it, and broaden your horizons. Only the decisions you make after doing that are ones you won't regret later in life." "Eli." My face darkened. "If you don't like me, you can just say it directly. You don't need to make up so many excuses." "I'm sorry." I crossed a line. The two of us fell into a cold war. Or rather, I was unilaterally giving him the silent treatment. Every few days, Eli would come to my university to visit me, bringing a massive pile of delicious food. My roommates were absolutely thrilled. "Your brother is so handsome. Does he have a girlfriend?" "Jade, what kind of sister-in-law do you want?" I answered honestly, "Someone exactly like me." There were a lot of guys chasing after me in college. I found it overwhelmingly annoying. One time when Eli came to pick me up, I intentionally told everyone he was my boyfriend just to shake them off. Hearing the word boyfriend, the corners of Eli's mouth barely perceptibly curved upward. The year I turned 20, my roommate helped me put on a show. When Eli came to the dorms looking for me, my roommate told him that I had gone to a hotel room with my boyfriend. She even reluctantly stuttered out the room number for him. Eli rushed over in an absolute panic, his forehead slick with sweat. He paced hesitantly outside the room door for a long time before finally sending me a text. "You have a boyfriend?" "Yeah, I'm 20 years old. What's wrong with dating?" "It's none of your business." I texted back. "Yes, I won't restrict your freedom." Eli's hands were trembling slightly as he typed. "As long as he's a good guy and treats you well, that's all that matters." Looking through the peephole, I saw that he was about to leave. I frantically fired off another message. Of course he's a good guy. He's only 35 and already a warehouse management supervisor. His future is incredibly bright. He's been divorced 3 times and has 2 sons and a daughter. He's a super responsible father. He promised that as long as I get pregnant with his child, he'll marry me right away. Give me your blessing. I'm going to be so happy. Eli violently spun around. He began pounding on the hotel door so hard it rattled violently. Jade, open this door. Are you trying to give me a heart attack? I suddenly threw the door open and yanked Eli inside. Only then did he realize I had been lying to him. Damn it. You nearly stopped my heart just now, he gasped. I steeled my resolve, hooked my arms around Eli's neck, and kissed him. This time, he didn't pull away. Eli, I am 20 years old. I am entirely, completely certain that I truly love you, and it is not out of dependency or gratitude. I told him. Are you going to be with me or not? I've laid everything out on the table. If you reject me again, I'll... Before I could even finish my sentence, he leaned down and captured my lips, cupping my face in his hands. He was so overwhelmed with emotion that his eyes rimmed red. He grabbed my hand and placed it against his chest. Beneath my palm was a wildly pounding heartbeat. I love you, he said. I will always love you, and I only love you. We had several incredibly beautiful years together. Just when I thought we were going to live happily ever after, Eli suddenly collapsed. He was diagnosed with a rare, genetically induced illness. There was no cure. The only option was relying on medication to temporarily dull the agony and slow the rate of deterioration. The money we had saved up over several years was completely wiped out in less than a month. Hiding it from Eli, I found a job with an extremely high commission rate. In order to close more deals, I went out socializing with clients every single day, letting people relentlessly force drinks on me until I was nearly dead. Once, while I was hunched over a flower bed outside the hospital vomiting, Eli happened to look down from his hospital room window and saw the whole thing. When he was diagnosed with a terminal illness, he hadn't cried. When the treatments caused him such excruciating pain that his face turned deathly pale, he hadn't cried. But just watching me throw up that one time made his heart ache so intensely that tears streamed down his face. Jade, I'll find a way to get the money. You are absolutely not allowed to destroy your own body like this, he told me. A few days later, he genuinely produced $100,000. I kept relentlessly interrogating him until he finally agreed to tell the truth. I am a son of the Whitmore family from Northfield. I went missing when I was 5 years old. I was utterly stunned. So you're actually a trust fund baby? I gasped. That's fantastic. The Whitmore family has so much money. They'll definitely find a way to cure you. Eli's face paled slightly. After a long pause, he slowly said, They are not going to save me. This $100,000 effectively serves to sever my relationship with them permanently. I never imagined that parents could show such extreme favoritism between a pair of twin boys. As a child, Brennan was sweet-talking and affectionate, whereas Eli had a cold disposition, wasn't very close to anyone, and certainly didn't know how to say pretty words to butter people up. Mrs. Whitmore inherently adored her younger son more. One day, the 2 brothers were leaning over the second-floor balcony, trying to pluck the maple leaves hanging near the window. It had been Eli's idea. Brennan insisted on grabbing a large leaf further away, but he lost his grip and plummeted off the second floor. By sheer luck, he landed on the soft lawn and wasn't seriously hurt. Mrs. Whitmore unleashed a barrage of vicious curses. I know you're just jealous that your brother is more likable than you. So you intentionally tried to kill him, she screamed. You little monster. Why wasn't it you who fell to your death? Eli hadn't bothered to explain. Taking his brother to pick leaves hadn't been some devious plot to vie for affection. It was simply because he had accidentally overheard their mother say that the maple tree in the yard was her favorite. So he wanted to pick a few of the prettiest leaves to press dry and give to her as bookmarks. When Eli went missing, the only things he remembered were his own name and his brother's name. He stayed with a family for 2 years, but later, that family no longer wanted to raise him, so they sent him right back into the foster system. Once he grew a little older, he had the capability to track down the Whitmore Group's headquarters building himself. The front desk receptionist saw a face absolutely identical to the young master's and immediately reported it. But the Whitmore family's attitude was entirely indifferent. His parents never even came down to meet him face to face. Eli finally understood. It was because Mrs. Whitmore adored Brennan and wanted him to be the only son, so he could inherit the Whitmore family empire in the future. Without any competitors, there would be no potential threats to worry about. The year Eli met me, news that the Whitmore family's missing son had been found somehow leaked out. Purely to maintain their public image, the Whitmore couple finally intended to formally recognize Eli and bring him back into the fold. Eli made one condition. I must bring my little sister with me. The Whitmore family refused. So he refused to return. How about this? Let's make a deal. You do one thing for me, and in the future, if the public ever brings me up, I will say that it was my own choice not to go back, rather than you mistreating me. The conditions Eli laid out were the $100,000 to buy my freedom, and putting Dennis in prison. From that point onward, he and the Whitmore family owed each other absolutely nothing. It wasn't until he fell severely ill and couldn't bear to watch me work myself to the bone that he swallowed his pride and went back to the Whitmores to beg for help. I had once believed that rich people were all very generous, since they had more money than they could ever need. Just a tiny drop spilling over from their wealth would be enough to last a normal person several lifetimes. But the Whitmore family was not like that. When it came to people they deemed unworthy, they refused to waste even a single dime. That recent $100,000 was actually given to him by Brennan. Well, bro. He hadn't called him brother in so many years that the word was incredibly difficult to force out. Mom controls all my money, and she won't let me give you anything. I secretly saved up this $100,000 myself. You said you wanted to buy a house? Is this enough? If not, I'll figure something else out. But the problems that followed were no longer something that could be solved with money. Eli steadily lost all his bodily functions. His entire body swelled with edema, his muscles severely atrophied, and he even lost control of his bowels and bladder. Every time I cleaned his body for him, he was so overwhelmingly humiliated he wished he could just die right there on the spot. My heart ached for him so much it felt like it was killing me, yet I was completely powerless to share any of his physical agony. Eli, you absolutely cannot let this weigh on your mind, I pleaded. If I were the one sick today, you definitely wouldn't be disgusted by me, right? All I wanted was for Eli to stay alive. As long as he was breathing, that was enough. Even if he was completely paralyzed or disabled, I was entirely willing to take care of him for the rest of my life. I never even made it to the day Eli would have succumbed to his illness, because he threw himself off the rooftop. That morning, he claimed he suddenly had an appetite and wanted food from the breakfast diner he used to frequent. I was overjoyed and immediately rushed out to buy it. When I came back, the moment I saw the corpse covered in a white sheet on the ground level, my mind completely snapped, and I passed out cold. When I woke up, I was surrounded by a circle of doctors, all trying to comfort me. Your boyfriend was simply terrified of dragging you down with him, they said. Money was pouring out like water every single day. It was too hard on a young girl like you, having to earn money while also caring for a patient. You've exhausted yourself to the point of looking 10 years older. His heart ached for you, and he freed himself from the pain. Everyone has their own fate. Please don't grieve too deeply. Throughout the entire process of handling Eli's funeral arrangements, I didn't shed a single tear. When the agony reaches its absolute peak, a person goes totally numb, as if all 5 senses have been stripped away. In his suicide note, Eli begged me to live a good life. But he didn't tell me exactly how I was supposed to live a future without him. I started walking to every single place Eli had ever been to. Having not eaten a bite of food for several days, I passed out from low blood sugar right outside the Whitmore Group's headquarters in Northfield. When I opened my eyes again, the moment I saw the man's face in front of me, I stared blankly for a few seconds, then clutched the blanket and wailed uncontrollably. It scared the living daylights out of Brennan. Hey, don't cry. I just had the doctor hook you up to N4 with some glucose, that's all. Wait, does it really hurt that much? From that moment on, it was as if I had grabbed onto a lifesaver. In stubborn desperation, I forced Brennan into being my spiritual anchor, my sole reason to keep living. But a 5-year illusion had to eventually come to an end. I was deeply disappointed. I was somehow still alive. Brennan had deployed a massive number of people, taking turns day and night to keep watch over me. Jade, I'm begging you. Stop trying to kill yourself, he pleaded. So, what if I'm just the stand-in? I'll be your stand-in. I am perfectly happy to do it now. As long as it makes you happy, I will literally go tomorrow and legally change my name to Eli. It's useless, I replied. I wiped away a tear and looked directly at Brennan. Eli was the person who loved me most in this entire world. He would never make me sad or upset, he would never bully me, and he certainly would never mess around with other women. With him around, I never had to back down for anyone. He would always get me the justice I deserved. Brennan. You couldn't replace him even if you tried. Brennan leaned over the hospital bed, pressing his face against my hand. I could feel a damp wetness seeping against my palm. After a long time, he spoke in a hoarse voice. I'm sorry, Jade. I am so sorry. I offered a small smile. It's okay. It didn't matter anymore anyway. Late one night, I stayed still, pretending to be asleep. Seizing the moment when the guards were changing shifts, I secretly climbed up onto the windowsill. Looking down, the drop was incredibly steep. When Eli jumped back then, it must have hurt so much. Jade! By the time Brennan screamed for me to stop, half of my body was already leaning out the window. Gloria was right behind him. Jade, please don't do anything rash, she cried out. As she spoke, she pushed a tall, large crate into the room from the hallway. Hurry, take a look at what this is. Brennan tore the crate open. Inside was a life-sized, one-to-one replica humanoid robot modeled after him. The robot was activated. A pair of clear, bright eyes slowly opened, looking directly toward where I was sitting. Just a single glance was enough to send tears streaming down my face. Even though their appearances were identical, I could tell instantly that it wasn't Brennan. Jade, this is a bionic android manufactured specifically to replicate Eli, Gloria explained. It's equipped with the Whitmore Group's newly developed voice and language system. We've already completed the baseline AI training, so you can talk to him. All of his behaviors and responses are modeled entirely after Eli himself. Gloria approached me very slowly, cautiously reaching out a hand. The person you've been desperately longing for is right here in front of you. Aren't you going to come down and hug him? I hadn't checked social media in a very long time. The moment I logged into my account, I saw trending hashtags all about me. Hashtag Jade Severe Depression, hashtag Jade Attempted Suicide. Countless fans and netizens were expressing concern about my current condition. But there were also people mixed and cursing me out. Being this hopelessly love-obsessed is a death sentence in itself. She doesn't deserve any sympathy. Threatening suicide over a man and completely abandoning your family and parents. An artist bringing this kind of toxic negativity should be permanently blacklisted. She's going to be a terrible influence on kids. It's 2026 and we're still pulling this kind of stunt? Did that guy literally save your life or something? I stayed up all night and posted a massive essay on my social media account. I meticulously recounted the complete story of Eli and me, laying it all out for everyone to read. I have no idea how many times I had to stop to wipe away my tears before I could force myself to push through and finish writing it. Overnight, the post received millions of likes. Stop blaming Jade for not being able to let go. After reading this, I don't think I can let go of Eli either. Girl, do you know it's 3 a.m. right now? I'm crying so hard I'm practically going blind. Now that is someone you could never forget for the rest of your life. He was there for such a brief moment, yet he'll stay with her forever. What the hell is God doing? Why on earth would you force two people so deeply in love to be separated by life and death? If you want to take a life, take my cheating, domestic abuser ex-husband's life. Stop coming for Eli. Gloria forcefully insisted on moving in with me, rejecting several major acting offers she had just finished negotiating. I tried to stop her for ages but couldn't. Gloria, you're sacrificing way too much for me. I feel terrible about this, I told her. Gloria dropped her luggage, turned around, and marched straight into the kitchen to start cooking. Well, you know who is terrified for you, but knowing you refused to see him. He practically begged me to come over here, she casually replied. But don't feel bad. Next time, I'll just force him to compensate me with an even better script. I'm not taking a loss on this. Gloria was absolutely convinced that eating well was the key to feeling well emotionally. During my hiatus, she practically lived in the kitchen researching new recipes, feeding me so much I actually gained a couple of pounds. The Whitmore Group had poured a massive fortune into artificial intelligence, leading to rapid, groundbreaking leaps in their technology. Netizens also shared tons of methods and tips with me on how to train an AI model. I took every single detail I could remember from my time with Eli and meticulously inputted them all into the android. He grew more and more like Eli by the day. Sometimes, when I woke up and opened my eyes to see the robot sitting at the edge of my bed, I would zone out in a daze for quite a while. Relying on this self-deceiving comfort, my medical condition finally started to stabilize. My birthday arrived. Brennan himself didn't dare to show up, but he sent over a massive mountain of gifts. Gloria, who had been studying baking recently, made me a birthday cake from scratch. "Jade, hurry up and make a wish," she urged. I had always loved squinting my eyes slightly while making a wish. Gazing straight through the candlelight, Eli sat across the table, watching me with a warm, gentle smile. The floodgates of my memories suddenly burst entirely open. Back then, I was 18, and Eli was 22. Year after year, the birthday wish I made was always exactly the same. To be with him in this lifetime, and every lifetime that followed. This year, I was 30 years old. I was now a full year older than Eli was when he passed away. Without him here, I was shocked to find I didn't even know what to wish for anymore. The stars were incredibly bright tonight. I pulled Eli out into the small garden to enjoy the cool breeze. Leaning my head on his shoulder, the tactile feel of the android's skin was somewhat hard and icy, still failing to perfectly mimic a real human. "You really took a massive loss running into me in this lifetime," I whispered. "I ate so much, hated doing chores, and constantly caused trouble, always forcing you to clean up my messes." Eli picked up a strawberry and popped it into my mouth. "Don't talk nonsense," he replied. "It was only when I was with you that I felt like I was actually alive. Having someone to care for, being needed by someone, it was a truly wonderful feeling. Jade, you were my entire reason for living." A shooting star flashed across the horizon. It was just as beautiful as the one from all those years ago. Tears filling my eyes, I looked up at Eli. "If there's a next life, will you still fall in love with me?" I asked. He took my hand and pressed it tightly against his chest, mimicking the gesture he had repeated countless times before. Only this time, beneath my palm, I could no longer feel a wildly pounding heartbeat. "I love you," he said. "I will always love you, and I only love you." Brennan fell ill. He was struck by the exact same illness as Eli, triggered by their shared genetics. The Whitmore family was driven absolutely frantic, desperately seeking out doctors everywhere and mobilizing every conceivable resource just to prolong Brennan's life. Mrs. Whitmore even went so far as to consult the private spiritual advisor the family had trusted for years. The advisor told her that the family's current misfortune might be tied directly to their failure to fulfill their parental duties all those years ago. That kind of karmic debt sometimes falls squarely onto the next generation. The Whitmore family immediately established a charity foundation in Eli's name, dedicated exclusively to funding the treatment of patients suffering from this specific rare disease. Mrs. Whitmore came to find me. She grabbed my hand and put on a spectacular, hypocritical display of weeping. "My sweet child, when Eli passed away, was he in a lot of pain?" she cried. "We're planning to relocate his grave back to Northfield to give him a proper burial, so we can finally fulfill our duties as his parents." Utterly repulsed, I violently shook her hand off and roughly wiped my own hand against the side of my clothes. "When I die, I'm going to be buried right beside him. If you people possess even a shred of conscience, stop trying to disturb his peace." I spat. Being born to irresponsible parents like you is the greatest tragedy of his entire life. I made my return to the industry. Using a robot as an emotional crutch was never going to be a viable long-term solution. I needed to find something to do, something to keep myself incredibly busy. Eli had told me he wanted me to live a good life on his behalf and see more of what the world had to offer. I couldn't let him down. The day before I joined my new production crew, Brennan called me. "Jade, I'm heading overseas for treatment. But this disease, you know how it is. The chances of a cure are extremely slim. There's a high probability I won't make it back alive. Just talk to me for a little while longer, okay?" I fell silent for 2 seconds. "Brennan, focus on your treatment. I hope you recover soon. His final question to me was, do you hate me? I answered with total serenity, I don't. Aside from screwing around behind my back, you actually treated me quite well. You effectively kept me afloat during the most unbearable 5 years following Eli's death. I don't have any reason to hate you. Brennan let out a heavy sigh, then gave a soft, quiet laugh. Is that so? Honestly, I'd rather you hate me than completely forget about me. Take care of yourself, Jade. We won't be seeing each other again. I never saw Brennan again. With absolutely no news arriving from afar about an old acquaintance, I simply assumed he had settled down overseas and was living a peaceful, stable life. I poured all my energy into my acting career. Without keeping a single cent for myself, I donated every last bit of my earnings to rare disease research institutions, desperately hoping they would soon find a way out for patients trapped in that absolute dead end. The year I turned 43, I followed in Gloria's footsteps, becoming the second actress in history to sweep absolutely every major acting award in a single year. It was Gloria herself who stepped onto the stage to present the trophy. I could spend 3 days and 3 nights talking about all the guidance and care she had provided me over the years, and I still wouldn't be able to cover it all. Watching me win the award, she was even more thrilled than I was. She wanted to cry but was terrified of ruining her makeup, making the effort to fight back her tears look incredibly agonizing. Jade, he must be so incredibly proud of you too, she whispered. Right in front of the cameras, we embraced each other. It was a moment of profound mutual appreciation between close friends, and more importantly, a passing of the torch within this industry. Twice in my life, I had nearly plummeted straight into the abyss. Eli saved me the first time. Gloria saved me the second time. Right there at the award ceremony, I shared an amazing piece of news with the entire audience. An international research institute I funded had attempted to apply newly achieved clinical research breakthroughs into practical use. And just yesterday, the very first fully recovered patient had emerged. From this day forward, that disease would no longer be a terminal death sentence. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience below the stage. With hot tears brimming in my eyes, I gazed off into the far distance. Eli, did you see this? If you're truly proud of me, then come find me a little earlier in our next life. Hold onto my hand tightly and never, ever let go.